Kiera Vaughn wasn't supposed to be at that ballroom. Drenched from the rain, her heels clicking across the marble floor, she stepped through the grand gold-trimmed doors of the Radcliffe Hotel's rooftop gala like she belonged when in fact, she absolutely didn't. Her best friend, who was supposed to be catering tonight, had dragged her here last minute after Kiera's interview at the publishing house went horribly sideways. "Come for 5 minutes," Lizzie had begged. "Just breathe, there's music, there's champagne." "There's no one who knows you." Kiera had planned to stay in the corner, maybe snag a canapé and leave unnoticed. But when the music started, real music, a live band playing something jazzy and old-fashioned, her feet itched to move. The problem was, she didn't have a partner. Everyone was in gowns and tuxedos, swirling across the polished floor like they'd been born into this world of wealth and champagne. Everyone except her. She was seconds from leaving when she saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, standing alone near the terrace doors. He wore a black suit that fit just a little too perfectly to be off the rack, his tie loosened, his jaw sharp and clean-shaven. But what caught her most was the way he looked at the dance floor, not bored, not distracted, just wistful. She moved toward him before her brain could stop her. "Excuse me," she said, clearing her throat. Would you dance with me?" The man blinked, turning toward her. Up close, his eyes were a stormy blue, and his features looked like they'd been carved out of marble. "I'm sorry, I know it's weird," she rushed out. "You don't know me. But I really need to dance tonight, and I promise I won't talk your ear off. Just one song." He stared at her for one long second, then smiled, soft, amused, but not mocking. "One song," he repeated. "I think I can handle that." She took his hand, warm and solid around hers, and let him lead her to the floor. The music changed to something slower, smoother. He placed one hand gently on her waist, the other still wrapped around hers. "I'm Kiera, by the way," she offered, trying to keep it light. He hesitated. Lachlan, she echoed. "Well, thanks for saving me from looking like a total fool standing alone." "I doubt you could ever look like a fool," he said, low enough that she almost missed it. Kiera swallowed. "You a regular here?" His mouth twitched. "Something like that." They danced through the entire song, and when it ended, neither of them let go. "Another?" he asked, voice rougher now. She nodded. 2 more songs passed before they finally stepped off the floor, breathless. Kiera's cheeks ached from smiling. Lachlan led her to the terrace, where the city stretched out in glittering lights beneath them. "Let me guess," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. "You're a hedge fund guy or an app developer or secretly a prince." Lachlan let out a low laugh. "None of the above." "What do you do then?" He looked at her, amused. "What do you think I do, honestly?" She tilted her head. "You seem like the guy who's either pretending to be rich to impress women or actually rich but pretending to be normal." He raised a brow. "That's oddly specific." Kiera shrugged. "I write, you learn to read people, you write?" he asked, interest flickering in his eyes. "Trying to," she admitted. "Mostly rejection letters right now." There was a pause. Then he said, "Well, for what it's worth, you're the most interesting thing I've seen in this place all night." Kiera's stomach flipped. "You're good at this." "I'm not trying to be." They stood under the awning, rain misting in the air around them, neither speaking. Then a voice called from inside. "Mr. Vale, they're ready for you." Kiera turned. "Mr. Vale," Lachlan's jaw tensed slightly. "Sorry, that's me," she blinked. "Mr. Vale is in, like the Lachlan Vale." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Yeah, you're Lachlan Vale," she repeated, eyes widening. "Like Vale Tech, the guy on Forbes, with the private jets and the yeah," he said again, quietly. Kiera took a step back. "I just asked a millionaire to dance." He ran a hand through his hair. "You didn't know." "Honestly, I liked that." She stared at him. "I should go." Kiera, "No, it's fine," she said, already backing away. "Thanks for the dance. Good luck with your empire." He watched her go, rain soaking into the hem of her thrifted dress as she disappeared into the elevator. Inside the ballroom, Lachlan's assistant approached again. "Sir, the board is waiting." But Lachlan didn't move. He was still watching the door she walked through, still holding the faint trace of her perfume in the air, and already, he knew, he wasn't letting her walk away that easily. Kiera didn't expect to see him again. By the time Monday arrived, She'd shoved the entire evening into a mental box labeled ridiculous and buried it beneath more pressing concerns like rent, her dwindling savings, and the fact that 3 of her freelance pitches had been rejected in the same morning. She was chewing a pen cap and staring at her laptop screen when her phone buzzed. "Come to the Grove," Lizzie said as soon as Kiera answered. "Now, I'm working." "You're not working, you're glaring at a Word document." Kiera hesitated. "What's going on?" "There's someone here asking for you." That got her off the couch. The Grove was a cozy coffee bar tucked between a bookstore and a florist, a place Kiera often came to scribble in her notebook when her apartment felt too tight. When she pushed open the heavy wooden door, the smell of cinnamon and roasted beans greeted her. Lizzie was behind the counter, wide-eyed and mouthing something that looked like, "Oh my God." Kiera's stomach turned. Then she saw him, Lachlan. Seated at the back corner, dressed far more casually than he had been the night of the gala, dark sweater, tailored jeans, sleeves pushed up to his elbows. He looked like he belonged there, despite the fact that his watch probably cost more than her rent. He stood when he saw her. "I wanted to apologize," he said, sliding his hands into his pockets. "I should have told you who I was that night." Kiera glanced toward the counter where Lizzie was still frozen, gripping a coffee cup mid-pour. "You didn't owe me anything," Kiera replied, crossing her arms. "It was one dance." "I shouldn't have reacted the way I did." "I didn't just dance with you," he said. "I came back looking for you." She blinked. "You what?" "I left the meeting early, went downstairs. You were already gone." Her heart pounded louder than she wanted it to. "Why?" Lachlan sat back down slowly, gesturing to the chair across from him. She hesitated, then joined him. "I don't really go to those events to meet people anymore," he continued. "But that night you walked up to me like you didn't care who I was. Like you weren't trying to get anything from me, you just wanted to dance." Kiera leaned back in the chair, unsure what to say. "I'm not good at this," he admitted. "At what?" "This," he said, motioning between them. "Normal conversation, not business, not strategy, just honesty." "You're doing fine," she said quietly, surprised by the gentleness in her own voice. He gave a small laugh, then grew serious. "I don't want to scare you off, but I'd like to see you again." She stared at him. "You want to date me. I want to get to know you," he said. "And maybe that leads somewhere." Kiera's fingers curled around the edge of the table. "You don't think we're from different worlds?" "I think we are," he said. "But I also think I haven't stopped thinking about you since that night." A silence stretched between them. Finally, she asked, "What makes you think I'm not just another girl who wants to be with a rich guy?" "I don't," he said. "But you walked away. That told me everything." She studied him for a long time. "If I said no, I'd respect it," he said, "but I'd still regret not trying." Kiera exhaled. "All right, one coffee. That's it." He smiled, different from before, not amused, just warm, one coffee, he agreed. They stayed at that table for nearly 2 hours. He asked questions, not the usual icebreakers, but real ones. About her writing, about her favorite places to walk in the city, about what she'd do if money wasn't always tight. She found herself answering without filtering, without pretense. She learned that he grew up in Boston, that he started his first company at 18. That he hated flying despite owning a plane, and that he hadn't been on a real date in over a year. When the sky outside began to turn orange, she glanced at the time and stood. "I should go." Lachlan rose with her. "Can I walk you?" She hesitated. "It's just a walk," he said. She nodded. Outside, the city air was crisp. They walked side by side, not touching, not speaking at first. "Why me?" she asked eventually. He looked over at her. "Because you're the only person I've met in years who didn't look at me like I was a transaction." She stopped walking. He stopped too. "I'm not good at dating powerful men," she said. "I don't want to be someone's accessory." "You're not," he said. "You're the main event." That made her laugh, which surprised them both. She looked up at him, something shifting in her chest. "Okay," she said. "Let's see where this goes." Lachlan reached for her hand. She let him take it. Kiera didn't expect the car. It wasn't a town car or a regular ride share, but a sleek, slate-colored Bentley waiting outside her building the next evening. Its engine whisper quiet, and its driver impeccably dressed in a tailored black suit. She hesitated on the stoop, clutching her canvas bag, already regretting saying yes to dinner the night before. The driver stepped forward. "Miss Vaughn," she nodded slowly, "I'm here to take you to Mr. Vale." The inside of the car smelled like leather and something faintly citrusy. The seats hugged her in a way that made her painfully aware of the state of her jeans and cardigan. She'd spent the afternoon debating if she should try to dress up, but Lachlan had said, "Come as you are," and she'd taken him at his word. Now she regretted that too. The drive took them out of the city, winding through a quiet stretch of tree-lined roads before pulling up to a glass and stone structure nestled against a lake. It wasn't a house. It was a world sleek, modern, and absurdly beautiful, like something out of a design magazine. Light spilled from the floor-to-ceiling windows, and inside she caught the glint of steel and marble. Lachlan was waiting at the entrance, no jacket, sleeves rolled back, hands in his pockets. His expression shifted the moment he saw her, something unguarded, like relief. "You came," he said. "You sent a spaceship," she replied, stepping out. He gave a quiet laugh. "You look perfect." "I almost didn't," she admitted. "This is a lot." "I know," he said, walking beside her as they entered. "I didn't bring you here to impress you." "Then why?" "To feed you," he said. "You mentioned you hadn't had a proper dinner in days." Inside, the dining area was set with candles and heavy silverware. A chef, yes, an actual chef, was plating roasted duck and glazed carrots while soft jazz played from speakers tucked somewhere she couldn't see. Kiera sat down slowly, acutely aware of every movement. "I've never been inside a place like this," she said as he poured her wine. "It feels like I should take off my shoes just to breathe here." "I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment," he said, settling across from her. "My first desk was a repurposed ironing board." "You're serious?" He nodded. "The lights in that apartment flickered every time we used the microwave. My mom used to say it was the place giving us a little warning." Kiera leaned forward. "What happened to her?" "She passed a few years ago," he said, voice quieter now. "Cancer, she never got to see any of this." "I'm sorry," she said, her own chest tightening. "She was tough," he said, lifting his glass. "She'd have made you look like a slacker." Kiera smiled just a little. "That's impossible." As they ate, she asked questions, real ones, and he answered without deflecting, about how he'd nearly gone bankrupt when one of his early investments imploded. About how he still carried the first rejection letter he ever got from a venture firm, folded neatly in his wallet. "I keep it to remind myself not to get too comfortable," he said, wiping his hands on a linen napkin. "Comfort makes you soft." "I wouldn't know," Kiera said. "I've never had the luxury of being soft." He looked at her longer than was comfortable. "That's why I like you. Because I'm sharp. Because you're real." After dinner, he led her through a set of glass doors onto a private dock that stretched over the water. The air was cool against her skin, and the lake reflected the night sky like a sheet of black glass. "You bring all your dates here?" she asked, only half teasing. "I don't date." She turned toward him. "Come on." "I don't," he said, resting his hands on the railing. "Too many people want something from me, or they want to be seen with me." "It's not the same. You think I'm different. I know you are." She didn't respond right away. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable this time. It was heavy, charged. "I don't know what you expect from me," she said finally. "I don't have anything to offer you. You offered me your honesty," he said. "That's more than most." She looked away, swallowing. "I'm not trying to own you, Kiera," he added. "I just want to know you, and if I don't fit into your world, I'll make space." She looked at him then, really looked. The hardened edge behind his eyes, the way he stood like he was always braced for disappointment, for betrayal. The way his voice softened only when he talked to her. "I don't trust easy," she said. "Neither do I." She stepped closer, close enough to catch the warmth off his skin. "If I fall into this," she said, "I fall hard." "I know," he said, reaching for her hand. "And you're sure that's what you want?" He didn't hesitate. "I've never been more sure of anything." She let him hold her hand just for a moment. Then she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't a slow kiss. It wasn't careful. It was desperate, like they'd both been waiting for something to break open. His hands slid to her jaw, his mouth claiming hers with a hunger that surprised them both. The dock creaked beneath them, but the world spun too fast to notice. When they pulled apart, she was breathless. Okay, she whispered. Okay, he repeated. She nodded. Let's see where this goes. Kiera stood at the edge of the rooftop garden, her fingers curled around the stem of a champagne glass she hadn't touched. The city shimmered below, blanketed in twilight, and the soft buzz of conversation floated around her. It was a charity gala, another one, and this time she hadn't come alone. She was on Lachlan's arm by invitation, but more than that, by choice. She wore a navy silk gown he hadn't picked, hadn't purchased, but had insisted she wear only if she loved it. And she did. Not because it was expensive, but because it made her feel like herself, just elevated, confident. Like she could meet the eyes of anyone here and not flinch. Lachlan was a few feet away, deep in conversation with a museum director about a restoration project he was funding. He didn't glance at her every few seconds, didn't hover or check if she was okay. He trusted her to be fine on her own. That, more than anything, made her chest ache in a way she hadn't expected. A voice to her left cut through the hum. "You're not what I expected." Kiera turned. The woman was tall, poised, with a sharp bob and sharper eyes. Her jewelry was subtle but expensive in that quiet, understated way that screamed old money. "I'm sorry," Kiera asked, keeping her tone neutral. "I've known Lachlan a long time," the woman continued. "I've never seen him bring someone to one of these. That sounds like his choice." "It is, which is why you're interesting." Kiera took a sip of her drink finally. "Because he brought me. Because you're not trying to become part of this world. You're just standing in it." Kiera tilted her head. "Is that a compliment?" The woman smiled faintly. "It's an observation." Before Kiera could respond, Lachlan appeared beside her, placing a hand gently at her back. "Everything all right, perfect," Kiera said. The woman gave a polite nod and disappeared into the crowd. Lachlan watched her go, then turned to Kiera. "Let me guess," he murmured. "Eleanor gave you the 'who are you really' once over." "She was polite," Kiera said. "In a way that felt like being measured." "She measures everyone," Lachlan said, "but she's not the one I care about impressing." Kiera looked up at him, her voice low. "You don't have to keep proving anything to me." "I'm not," he said. "I'm proving it to myself. That I can let someone in." Later that night, they left the gala early. Once in the car, Kiera kicked off her heels and pulled her legs up beneath her, twisting to face him. "Do you ever get tired of it?" she asked. "The galas, the masks, the constant performance." His jaw tightened slightly, but he nodded. "It's exhausting." "So why keep doing it?" "Because it protects the people I care about. My board, my team, they need to see a version of me that's unshakable." "And what about me?" she asked. "Which version do I get?" "The real one," he said immediately. "The one who doesn't have all the answers, who sometimes wakes up and wonders if any of this means anything." She reached for his hand. "You don't have to wonder that." He looked down at their joined fingers. "You make me want things I thought I'd stopped needing." "Like what?" "Stillness," he said. "A home that isn't just walls and security systems. Mornings with someone who doesn't care what the headlines say." She was quiet for a moment. "Then I want those things too." The car pulled into his building's underground garage, but neither of them moved to get out. "There's something I want to show you," he said suddenly. They rode the elevator to the top floor. When the doors opened, Lachlan led her past his penthouse to a narrow staircase that wound up once more. At the top was a heavy glass door. He pushed it open and stepped aside. Kiera stepped out onto the rooftop. It wasn't like the grand garden from earlier. This was smaller, quieter. A long bench. A few potted olive trees, a telescope pointed at the sky. He joined her. "I built this when I bought the building. It's the only place I can breathe." She walked to the telescope and peered through it. The stars were faint, but she could make out a few constellations. "It's beautiful," she said. "I come here when I need to remember I'm small," he said. "When the world down there feels too loud." She turned to him. "Thank you for bringing me here. I wanted you to see the part of my life no one else does." She stepped closer, her voice soft. "What happens now? I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I don't want to do it alone." She leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. "Then don't." A week later, Kiera stood on a stage in front of a packed bookstore. Her debut novel was stacked in piles around the room, and a banner with her name hung behind her. She looked out at the crowd, heart pounding, and began to read. When she finished, the applause was thunderous, but her eyes found one face, Lachlan's. He was in the back, dressed down in a hoodie and jeans, beaming at her like she'd hung the moon. After the event, he waited until everyone else had filtered out before approaching. "You did it," he said. "I did," she said. "And I didn't do it alone." He pulled something from his pocket, a small, square box. Her breath caught. "I know this is fast," he said, "but I've learned not to let time decide what matters. You walked into my life the way lightning hits, loud, unexpected, and impossible to ignore." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, a single sapphire, not a diamond. "I didn't pick this because it was expensive," he said. "I picked it because it was honest." "Like you," Kiera's throat tightened. "Are you asking me?" "I'm saying I want to build a life with you, one with quiet mornings, terrible first drafts, rooftop dinners, all of it. Will you marry me?" She didn't wait. She didn't hesitate. "Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and pulled her into his arms. Outside, the city buzzed with life. But in that moment, all that mattered was the two of them and the dance that started it all. The wedding was never meant to be extravagant. Kiera had been clear from the beginning. No press, no rented castles, no 6-tiered cakes flown in from Paris. "If I can't laugh in my dress or dance barefoot at the end of the night," she told Lachlan one morning as they sat on the floor of their apartment surrounded by fabric samples and invitation drafts, "then it's not the wedding I want." He'd kissed her forehead and said, "Then we'll do it your way." So they chose a vineyard tucked in the Berkshires, one with ivy-covered stone walls and a small chapel that smelled like lavender and old wood. The guest list barely cracked 40, just friends, just the people who mattered, no photographers, no social media, no speeches written by PR teams. Kiera stood at the edge of the vineyard's stone path, the sun casting golden light through the trees. Her dress was made of soft silk that moved when she did, and her hair was loosely pinned with tiny white blooms woven through the curls. She wasn't wearing heels. She didn't need them. Beside her, Lizzie adjusted the delicate strap on her shoulder. "You're sure about this?" she whispered, more teasing than serious. "I'm sure," Kiera said. "I've never been more sure about anything." The chapel doors opened and the music started. Lachlan stood at the front, wearing a simple charcoal suit. His expression didn't shift as she walked toward him. He didn't smile, didn't laugh. His eyes just stayed locked on hers, so full of quiet awe it made her breath catch. When the officiant asked if she would take him as her husband, her voice didn't shake. "I do." When he said the same, he didn't look at anyone else. Their vows were handwritten. Hers talked about the way he'd shown her how to be brave without hardening. His mentioned the first moment he saw her and how everything since had been a choice to keep choosing her. No one clapped at the end. There was just silence, and then the rustle of chairs as everyone stood in still reverence, the kind that happens when something truly rare unfolds in front of them. Later, when the sun dipped low and the vineyard glowed with string lights, Lachlan led her to the makeshift dance floor beneath a canopy of trees. The band played something slow and old, and he pulled her close, his hands warm against her waist. "Do you realize," he said, his voice low near her temple, "you've completely ruined my ability to focus on anything else?" "You weren't exactly focused before I came along," she whispered. "That's true," he said, "but now I don't even pretend." They danced through the song and then another. Neither of them noticed when the guests joined in. It wasn't about anyone else. That night, as the last lanterns flickered and the last glasses were cleared, they walked hand in hand through the vineyard back to the small stone cottage they'd rented for the weekend. The door creaked as they entered, and Kiera kicked off her shoes, sinking into the worn velvet couch near the fireplace. He sat beside her, tugging off his tie, and leaned back with a sigh. "I didn't think I could have this," he said. "Have what?" she asked, curling her legs beneath her. "This peace," he replied, "this quiet kind of joy." "You can," she said. "You do." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I almost didn't show you this." She took it, unfolding it slowly. It was a letter. Her letter, the query she'd sent to Vale Publishing 3 months ago. "You read it?" she asked, heart thudding. "I didn't just read it," he said. I sent it to our senior editorial director under a pseudonym. She doesn't know it's you yet. She called it the most emotionally honest manuscript she's read in 5 years. Kiera's eyes stung. You didn't have to do that, I know, he said, but I believe in you. And if the world doesn't see what I see, then I'll help them look harder. She leaned forward, pressing her lips to his, and he pulled her into his lap, arms wrapping tightly around her. I love you, she whispered. I love you more, he said. I think that's impossible. Then I guess we'll have to keep trying to prove each other wrong. The seasons passed quietly. Winter brought soft snow over the vineyard hills, and they spent long weekends curled beneath blankets, reading manuscripts and planning the small publishing imprint Kiera had agreed to run under Vale Tech's creative wing. Not as a favor, never that, but as a partner, with full control and her name on the door. Spring arrived with green shoots and the sound of birds nesting in the trees outside their new home, a modest lakefront house they'd chosen together, one with shelves already built for her books and a sunroom where he could work without distraction. There were no more galas, no more red carpets. Lachlan stepped down from the board, handing over day-to-day operations to the CEO he'd mentored. He still advised, still built, but now he did it from home, barefoot, coffee in hand, with Kiera's voice drifting from the next room as she scribbled edits across another manuscript. They celebrated small victories, her first starred review, his first full night of sleep without checking his phone. They built a life not of excess but of intention. A life where dinner happened around a table, laughter echoing off the walls, and every kiss still felt like the first. One summer evening, as they stood on the dock behind their house, watching the sun sink behind the trees, Kiera leaned into him and whispered, "This is the life I never knew I could want." Lachlan kissed her hair, and it's only the beginning. He slipped his hand into hers, no press, no cameras. Just the man who had once stood alone on a rooftop and the woman who asked him to dance. Together always.